When you reach 99 years old, you have earned the right to stay quiet. You have buried your friends, outlived your generation, and watched the world change in ways that would have seemed impossible when you were young. Mel Brooks has earned that silence 1,000 times over. He is the last giant standing from that golden age of American comedy. The man who made us laugh at Nazis, at death, at everything we were supposed to be afraid of. He lost his beloved wife in Bancroft in 2005. He lost Carl Reiner, his best friend for 70 years, in 2020. He has watched almost everyone he loved disappear into memory. So when the news broke about Rob Reiner and Michelle, when the headlines screamed about murder and family tragedy and a son covered in his parents' blood, nobody expected Mel to say anything. At his age, with his losses, he had earned the right to grieve privately. To close the door on the cameras and the reporters and the endless circus of media speculation. Everyone understood if Uncle Mel just wanted to be left alone. But yesterday something changed. A car pulled up to Mel's home in the quiet hills above Los Angeles. Not a news van. Not a camera crew. Just one person. A writer Mel has known for 40 years. Someone he trusts. And for 3 hours behind closed doors, Mel Brooks spoke. He didn't give a press conference. He didn't release a statement through his publicist. He just talked. The way you talk when you are 99 years old and you realize you don't have time left to keep secrets. The way you talk when the weight of what you know becomes heavier than the weight of staying silent. What Mel said in that room changes everything. It changes how we see Rob Reiner's death. It changes how we understand what happened in that house. And it changes what we thought we knew about the Reiner family behind all the success and the Hollywood royalty and the perfect public image. This isn't a story about a sudden tragedy. According to Mel Brooks, this is a story about a disaster that everyone saw coming. And nobody could stop. Mel started by talking about Sunday dinners. That's where the story really begins, he said. Not the night of the murder. Not even Nick's addiction or his mental health struggles. It begins with Sunday dinners and the weight of legacy and what it means to grow up as the son of a legend. For decades, Mel explained, Sunday night meant dinner at Carl Reiner's house. It was a tradition. A sacred ritual. Carl and his wife Estelle would host. Mel would come over. Other friends from the old days, Dick Van Dyke sometimes, or Larry Gelbart, the great comedy minds of that generation. They would eat simple food. They would watch Jeopardy. They would tell stories. And Rob would be there too, sitting at his father's table, listening to these giants talk about their work, their lives, their incredible careers. Mel said it looked beautiful from the outside. A son staying close to his father. A family that remained connected even as Rob built his own massive success. But Mel watched something else happening too. He watched Rob trying his entire life to step out of his father's shadow. And he watched Carl, without meaning to, without even realizing it, cast that shadow everywhere Rob went. Carl was my best friend, Mel said, his voice cracking. I loved him more than almost anyone in this world. But Carl was big. You understand? Not just famous. Big. His personality filled every room. His intelligence, his kindness, his talent, it was like living next to the sun. And Rob, God bless him, Rob spent 70 years trying to prove he wasn't just Carl's son. And Rob did prove it. He became one of the most successful directors in Hollywood. When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, A Few Good Men, Stand By Me, Misery. These weren't just movies. They were cultural landmarks. Rob Reiner became a name that meant something entirely separate from his father. He built Castle Rock Entertainment. He won awards. He shaped American cinema. But then came the children. And suddenly, without anyone planning it or even noticing it at first, the weight that Rob had carried his whole life got passed down one more generation. Except this time it was different. This time it was dangerous. Mel talked about Nick as a little boy. He remembered him clearly. A sweet kid, he said. Sensitive. Artistic. But always a little lost. Always searching for something. Mel remembered one Christmas. Nick must have been 8 or 9 years old, sitting in the corner at a party while everyone celebrated Rob's latest success. Someone had asked Nick what he wanted to be when he grew up, and Nick had said, I don't know. Not a director. Everyone already has one of those. Even as a child, Mel explained, Nick felt like there was no room for him. His grandfather was Carl Reiner. His father was Rob Reiner. What was left? Where could he possibly go that didn't already have someone's footprints all over it? We should have seen it then, Mel said, shaking his head. We should have understood that the weight was too much. But we didn't. We thought love would be enough. We thought if Rob just loved him enough, supported him enough, gave him enough chances, it would work out. But it didn't work out. As Nick got older, the struggles got worse. First it was just teenage rebellion. Then it was drugs. Then it was harder drugs. Then it was rehab. Then it was another rehab. And another. Mel lost count of how many times Rob called him, exhausted and heartbroken, saying Nick was trying again. Starting fresh. Getting clean. This time would be different. 17 times, Mel said. Or 18. Rob sent him to treatment 17 or 18 times. Do you understand what that does to a parent? Every time you hope. Every time you believe this is the one that will work. And every time the phone rings at 2 in the morning and you know. You just know. He's using again. But Mel's story gets darker here. Because the addiction wasn't the real problem. The addiction was a symptom. What really destroyed the Reiner family, what really led to that horrible night in Brentwood, was something much more complicated. It was resentment. It was rage. It was a son who looked at his father's success and his grandfather's legend and decided that they had stolen something from him. That their greatness had somehow robbed him of his own chance. Mel described a conversation he had with Rob about 2 years ago. They were sitting in Mel's living room, the same room where this interview took place. Rob was quiet, which wasn't like him. Rob was usually full of energy, full of ideas, always moving forward. But that day he just sat there, staring at his hands. Finally, Rob spoke. He told Mel that Nick had started saying things. Terrible things. Nick had started blaming Rob for his addiction. For his failures. For everything wrong in his life. Nick said that growing up as Rob Reiner's son had cursed him. That every door that opened for him only opened because of the name. That no one would ever see him for who he really was because they would always see him as Rob's son first. And the worst part, Mel said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, was that some of it was true. Not the addiction. Not the violence. But the shadow part. That was real. I lived it with Carl. I watched Rob live it with Carl. And now Rob was watching Nick live it with him. Except Nick didn't have Rob's strength. Nick didn't have his discipline or his talent or his work ethic. Nick had pain. And he had drugs. And he had anger. Mel revealed something that hasn't been in any of the police reports or news stories. In the last year of his life, Rob had started going to therapy specifically to deal with Nick. Not to fix Nick. To deal with the guilt and fear and exhaustion of loving a son who seemed determined to destroy himself and everyone around him. The therapist, according to Mel, had told Rob something that haunted him. The therapist said that some people cannot be saved. That sometimes love isn't enough. That sometimes the kindest thing a parent can do is let go. Set boundaries. Protect yourself and your spouse. Step back and let the person face the consequences of their choices. Rob couldn't do it. He tried. Michelle tried. They talked about it constantly. They would make plans, set limits, draw lines. And then Nick would show up, broken and desperate, and Rob would let him back in. Every single time. That was Rob's fatal flaw, Mel said, and his voice was full of love and anger at the same time. In his films, he understood tragedy. He understood failure. He understood the complexity of human nature. But in his own life, he couldn't accept that his son might be beyond saving. He kept directing the scene over and over, trying to get it right. But life doesn't give you another take. Mel talked about the money. This part made him furious. In the 2 years before the murder, Nick had extracted hundreds of thousands of dollars from Rob and Michelle. Maybe more. Mel doesn't know the exact number, but he knows it was constant. Nick would demand money, and when Rob hesitated, Nick would explode. He would scream about how Rob owed him. How Rob had failed him as a father. How the Reiner money was built on Nick's suffering. It was extortion, Mel said flatly. That's what it was. But Rob wouldn't call it that. Rob called it helping his son. Rob kept believing that if he just provided enough support, enough resources, Nick would turn it around. But you can't buy someone's sobriety. You can't purchase mental health. And you definitely can't pay someone to stop hating you. The manipulation went deeper than money. Mel described how Nick would use Rob's political values against him. Rob was a proud liberal. He believed in compassion, in second chances, in addressing root causes rather than punishing symptoms. Nick understood this. He knew exactly what buttons to push. Nick would talk about his childhood trauma. He would bring up moments from his youth, things Rob had said or done or failed to do, and demand reparations. Not apologies. Reparations. Money. Acknowledgement. Public statements. He treated his own father like a criminal who needed to make amends for the crime of being successful. Rob would show me the text messages, Mel said. Pages and pages of accusations. Hateful, vicious stuff. Blaming Rob for Nick's addiction. Blaming Rob for Nick's career failures. One message said, "You stole my life by having yours." How do you respond to that? How do you love someone who tells you that your existence ruined theirs? But here's where Mel's voice changed. Here's where the anger shifted into something else. Grief. Deep, bottomless grief. Because Mel Brooks, who has made the world laugh for 75 years, who understands human nature better than almost anyone, couldn't save his friend. He saw what was coming and he couldn't stop it. About 6 months before the murder, Rob came to Mel's house on a Sunday afternoon. Not for dinner. Not for Jeopardy. He came because he needed to talk. He told Mel that he was afraid in his own home. Nick was living in the guest house on the property, and Nick's behavior was getting scarier. Paranoid. Aggressive. Unpredictable. Rob told Mel that he had started locking his bedroom door at night. Think about that. A 77-year-old man in his own home, locking his door because he was afraid of his son. Mel told him to call the police. Get a restraining order. Kick Nick out. Protect yourself and Michelle. But Rob couldn't do it. He had promised Michelle he wouldn't give up on their son. And Rob Reiner was a man who kept his promises, even when those promises were killing him. I grabbed him, Mel said, demonstrating with his hands, reaching forward like he was gripping someone's shoulders. I grabbed Rob and I looked him in the eye and I said, Robbie, this is going to end badly. You need to get him out of that house. And you know what Rob said to me? Mel's voice broke here. He had to stop talking for a moment, gathering himself. Rob said, if I kick him out, he'll die on the street. If I keep him here, maybe I can save him. At least here I can try. That conversation haunts Mel now. It plays over and over in his mind. Because he knew. He absolutely knew that Rob was wrong. That keeping Nick close wasn't saving anyone. It was just allowing the danger to get closer and closer until it was too late to run. Mel talked about the party at Conan O'Brien's house. He wasn't there himself, but he heard about it immediately afterward. Rob had called him the next morning, shaken. Nick had behaved erratically at the party, making people uncomfortable, confronting guests, creating awkward scenes. Rob and Michelle had gotten into a terrible argument with Nick, right there in front of Hollywood royalty. It was humiliating. It was frightening. And it was a warning. Rob knew something bad was going to happen, Mel said. He knew it, but he thought he had more time. He thought he could still fix it. He didn't realize that time had already run out. Then Mel revealed the detail that changes everything. The detail that transforms this from a true crime story into something much more heartbreaking. The night of the murder, Rob called Mel. It was late. After midnight. Mel almost didn't answer the phone. He was already in bed. But something made him pick up. Rob's voice was different. Quiet. Strained. He told Mel that Nick was having a breakdown. Screaming about the will. Convinced that Rob and Michelle were planning to cut him out of the inheritance. Nick was out of control and Michelle was trying to calm him down. Mel told Rob to leave. Get out of the house. Drive to Mel's place. Let the situation cool down. Call the police if necessary. Just get out. And then Rob said something that Mel will hear in his head for the rest of his life. Rob said, I can't leave Michelle alone with him. If I leave, he'll turn all of it on her. I have to stay. That was the last time Mel Brooks heard Rob Reiner's voice. Rob went back into that room to protect his wife. He walked toward the danger instead of away from it because he couldn't bear the thought of Michelle facing Nick alone. And hours later, both of them were dead. He died protecting her, Mel said, tears streaming down his face. That's who Rob was. He couldn't save his son. He couldn't even save himself. But he stayed to protect Michelle. And now they're both gone. Mel has lived a long life. He has seen wars and loss and tragedy. He has buried friends and family. But this, he said, this is different. This feels like the final chapter of something. The end of an era. Carl is gone. Rob is gone. The great dynasty of comedy and creativity and Jewish American brilliance that started in the 1950s, it's fading away. And Mel is left behind, the last witness to what it all meant and what it all cost. I'm 99 years old, Mel said. I've lived longer than I ever expected. I thought I'd be gone before all of this. I thought Carl would outlive me. I thought Rob would be here to tell my stories after I'm gone. But instead I'm here. And they're not. And I have to carry this. Mel talked about the systems that failed. The therapists who minimized the danger. The doctors who prescribed medications without addressing the rage. The friends who enabled Nick's delusions. The Hollywood culture that teaches people that money can solve any problem and fame means you're protected from consequences. There were so many people around the Reiner family, Mel said, his voice hard now, angry. Professionals. Experts. People being paid to help. And all of them failed. They took Rob's money and they told him what he wanted to hear. They said Nick was just sick. They said it was addiction and mental illness and trauma. But they didn't say the truth. They didn't say he was dangerous. They didn't say, "Get out of that house before it's too late." Mel reserved his harshest words for the enablers in Nick's life. The hangers-on. The people who used Nick's access to Rob's money and Rob's world for their own benefit. The friends who encouraged Nick's resentment and fed his paranoia and told him he was right to be angry. Nick held the knife, Mel said. But a lot of people sharpened the blade. He wants those people exposed. He wants them to face what they did. He wants them to understand that their silence and their encouragement and their willingness to take Rob's money while poisoning his relationship with his son makes them complicit in what happened. But Mel also talked about Nick with something that surprised the interviewer. Not sympathy exactly, but understanding. Mel has spent his whole life studying human nature. He understands failure and weakness and how people break. And he understands that Nick was broken long before he became violent. Nick was crushed by the weight of being a Reiner, Mel said. It's not an excuse. Nothing excuses what he did. But it's an explanation. That boy never had a chance to be himself. He was always Carl Reiner's grandson. Always Rob Reiner's son. He never got to just be Nick. And somewhere in all that pressure and pain he snapped. The question that haunts Mel is whether it could have been prevented. If Rob had set harder boundaries earlier. If the family had forced Nick into long-term psychiatric care instead of short-term rehab. If someone had called the police when Nick first started making threats. Would Rob and Michelle still be alive? Mel doesn't know. Nobody knows. But he knows that the choices Rob made, the choices born out of love and hope and a father's desperate need to believe his son could be saved, those choices led directly to the tragedy in Brentwood. Rob was a great director, Mel said. But he couldn't direct this. He couldn't fix it with another take or a better script or the right lighting. Real life doesn't work that way. And by the time he understood that, it was too late. Mel is planning to speak at the funeral. It will be private, only family and close friends. He said he won't tell jokes. This isn't the time for jokes. This is the time for truth. He wants to tell everyone there what he's telling this interviewer. That Rob Reiner died because he loved his son too much to let him go. That Michelle died because she stood by her husband. That this tragedy was built one choice at a time, one moment of forgiveness at a time, one decision to give another chance at a time. And Mel wants to warn other families. Other parents with troubled children. Other people who think love can overcome anything. He wants them to understand that sometimes, love isn't enough. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is step back. Set boundaries. Protect yourself. Let the person face the consequences of their choices. Because the alternative, as the Reiner family learned, can be fatal. I've spent my whole life making people laugh, Mel said. I've made jokes about everything. Death, evil, human stupidity. I found the humor in it all. But this? There's no joke here. There's no absurdity to point out. This is just sad. It's just a waste. Two beautiful people are dead because they loved their son too much to see how dangerous he had become. As the interview ended, Mel looked exhausted. Not just physically, though at 99 any conversation is tiring. But emotionally, spiritually. Like he had finally set down a burden he had been carrying alone. He talked about loneliness. About being the last one left. About Sunday dinners that will never happen again. About phone calls that will never come. About a friendship that lasted 70 years and ended in tragedy. Carl and I used to joke, Mel said, a faint smile crossing his face for the first time. We would ask each other, who's going to go first? We both wanted to go first. Neither of us wanted to be the one left behind. Well, Carl got his wish. He went first. And I'm here. And now Rob's gone too. And I'm still here. And I don't know why. He said he thinks about Rob every day. He sees him in dreams. He hears his voice. He remembers the little boy who sat at Carl's table, listening to the legends talk, trying to find his own voice in a room full of giants. And he remembers the man that boy became. Brilliant, kind, successful, flawed, human. Rob Reiner was my friend for over 60 years, Mel said. I watched him grow up. I watched him become great. And I watched him die trying to save his son. I don't know what the lesson is. I don't know what we're supposed to learn from this. But I know that if Mel Brooks, at 99 years old, feels the need to break his silence and tell this story, then people should listen. Because I won't be here much longer. And when I'm gone, this story might get forgotten or simplified or turned into something it's not. So I'm telling it now. The truth. The whole truth. While I still can. The world has been focused on the crime scene and the arrest and the trial that's coming. But Mel Brooks wants us to focus on something else. On the years of warning signs that were ignored. On the slow-motion disaster that everyone saw coming but nobody could stop. On the price of unconditional love when the person you love is beyond saving. This isn't just a Hollywood tragedy. This is a human tragedy. It's about parents and children, about legacy and shadow, about the weight of expectations and the danger of delusion, about the limits of love and the consequences of denial. Mel Brooks has broken his silence. At 99 years old, when he could have stayed quiet, when nobody would have blamed him for grieving privately, he chose to speak. He chose to tell the truth about his friend's death. Not to hurt Rob's memory, not to blame the victim, but to warn the rest of us. To say clearly and urgently, this could happen to you. This could happen to anyone. If you see the signs, act. If you feel the danger, run. If someone you love has become a threat, love them from a distance. Because the alternative is what happened in Brentwood. And that alternative, as Mel Brooks knows all too well, is something no family should ever have to face. The silence is broken. The truth is told. And now all of us who heard it have to decide what we're going to do with it. Will we learn from Rob Reiner's death? Will we set better boundaries? Will we recognize when love has become enabling and when helping has become harm? Or will we make the same mistakes? Will we believe that our love is strong enough to save someone who doesn't want to be saved? Will we ignore the warning signs because we can't imagine our child, our spouse, our family member could ever really hurt us? Mel Brooks doesn't know. He's 99 years old. He won't be here to see what happens next. But he's done his part. He's told the story. He's issued the warning. He's honored his friend in the only way he has left, by refusing to let Rob's death be just another headline that fades away. This is Mel Brooks's final gift to Rob Reiner. The truth. Painful, complicated, heartbreaking truth. And maybe, just maybe, that truth will save someone else's life. Maybe another parent will hear this story and make a different choice. Maybe another family will recognize the danger before it's too late. That's what Mel hopes anyway. That's why he spoke. Because at 99, you don't have time to waste on polite lies and comfortable fictions. At 99 you tell the truth. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Because the truth is the only thing that matters in the end. The only thing that lasts. The only thing that can possibly make sense of senseless tragedy. Mel Brooks has told his truth. Now it's up to the rest of us to listen.